I Love Mortgage Brokering, episode 31.
The only podcast for brokers by brokers. I Love Mortgage Brokering will inspire you to up your mortgage business. Join your host, Scott Peckford.
Hi, Broker Nation. I am thrilled to introduce our guest today, Rob Campbell. Rob is a mortgage broker with the Mortgage Wellness Group. He's one of the founders of CMH TV. It's the only hangout for mortgage brokers by mortgage brokers. I'm absolutely stoked about this interview today. Rob, are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to go, Scotty. Let's hit her.
Awesome. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just recently moved to the Mortgage Wellness Group's head office in Barrie, Ontario. Previous to that, I spent the last 3 years of my brokering career in Guelph, Ontario, where I had lived with my family for 11 years. Kind of got into the broker business, not out of desperation, but visited a mortgage broker in Guelph to renew our loan. And at that time, I was a tradesman, did an apprenticeship at an automation company, so automation and robotics, and did my apprenticeship in 8,000 hours and wrote the test and all that good stuff. But the economy, that was around 2008-ish, where we got reduced down to one work day per week, and we were on work share. And, I was basically banging my head against the wall. My personality was such that I couldn't go to work and just stand around all day and push a broom, and then for the other 4 days of the week, kind of sit at home. So when we were talking with our broker, I kind of casually asked, hey, how do you get into this, and what kind of money are we looking at? And by the time I brought in my docs the week after, I had already signed up for and paid for the course, and here we are 4 years later.
So if you would have taken a little bit more time, if you didn't need to renew right away, you could have been your first customer.
I could have been, yeah. Yeah, back then you might have even gotten paid on your own file. I don't know that you could get paid anymore, but yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. And so you were in the trades business and decided, hey, I want to make a change and switched into brokering. Job sharing 1 day a week is obviously not going to be sustainable long term.
Yeah, and to advise newer agents or brokers that maybe are listening to this and in perpetuity and are thinking about getting in the business, my advice to you is not to get into this business while you have a 2.5-year-old and a newborn at home and your wife's on maternity leave and you've never had a sales position in your life. Hence why I now look like I've been dragged behind the ugly and old bus, whereas 3 years ago it wasn't the case. But 1 day of work per week is just not a good life mentally or financially. So yeah, I jumped in with both feet. I didn't really do it part time. I just kind of went in, gave my 2 weeks notice, and January the 15th, 2010 was my last day at my employer, and then I hopped in.
So just out of curiosity, how long did it take you to get your first client?
Well, I had mentioned I jumped in with both feet full time. I was licensed. I believe it was August of 2009. But and this maybe is a statement of how we need to up the bar. The entry level. You basically pay your money and write your test on the back of a napkin, and now you're all of a sudden you're ready to rock and roll in the mortgage industry. So I was sending in leads to the broker that I was licensed with before I actually started full time. So my first deal was very quick out of the gate, just because of my personality is talking about it and such. But that first year I did okay.
Was probably better than working 1 day a week anyway.
It certainly was, let me tell you.
Okay, so before we dive into your story, I'd like to ask about a success quote that has impacted your life or business. For me, I find quotes take an idea and they distill it down into something that's portable, that you can, and memorable. So can you share a quote that's really impacted you?
Yeah. There are so many quotes out there. The one thing that I thought of this morning here before we were in preparation for our call was actually a quote that I heard from a guy named Jim Rohn. And it was, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And I think, we getting into any industry or any aspect of life, you sit down and put your head in your hands and you say, man, why can't it just be easier? Even this business now in 2014, it just seems to be so damn hard. Deals don't get put together that easy anymore. And that don't wish it were easier, wish you were better really makes you sit down and go, well, the problems, I'm the solution to the problem. The problem's not going to go away. Tough deals are not going to go away. I have to get better at making those tough deals work better. So that's kind of a quote that it really is a good one for me to keep in the back of my mind.
I love that quote. That's awesome. So can you share how you've applied that philosophy, like recently, either in a situation or something to do with your business?
Yeah, so I don't know, like this new role that I've taken at Nick Lequier's head office here, in the brokerage in Barrie, is a completely different role than what I'm used to. I in Guelph, I had a AAA business, 800 Beacon scores, university professors and millennials with good money, good professions, good credit. The kind of clients that you get off the phone with, you'd say to them on the phone, hey, look, I need this, and this by the time of our next appointment, and literally within 5 minutes, you'd get a link to their Google Docs, and there they all are in PDF form, all neatly arranged for you, ready to download. So this new role is a completely 180, where I'm now, in the alternative side of the brokerage. So, how can go back to that quote is, change life up a little bit. If you think it's getting hard, you need to look at yourself and be inflective and look at how you can maybe change and get better, and maybe change it up. We get complacent quite easily as humans, so maybe that's a way that I've tried to put that towards my business.
Right. No, I love that. That's actually, I've heard that once before, that quote, and I completely forgot about it till you mentioned it. But I think in the last week, I've had a bunch of switch transfers that I'm working on, and they're all like done and dialed in, and they just blow up at the last minute, and they're driving me bonkers. And I need to hear that. Don't wish I was easier. Wish I was better. And I'm like, I just need to figure out what I'm doing in these to prevent this from happening, because it's disheartening when you spend you think it's all done, and then it's like, oh yeah.
Anyway. You know what I've done with those switch transfers, and I hear the same thing from a lot of other agents that I talk to, because and we've talked about this on Canadian Mortgage Hangout, which is located at CanadianMortgageHangout.tv, a little plug there. We've talked about switch transfers and how difficult they can be. I've had a lot of success with them, and the reason I've had success is as soon as I'm on a call with a client and they say, yeah, I'm coming up for maturity, it's in a month, can you help me out? Right away, I front end load that appointment. I tell them, sure, when you come and meet or when we're on the phone for our next call, here's exactly what I need to give you a good assessment, and I get everything from them: mortgage renewal statement, property tax bill, charge statement, like everything, income, pay stubs, everything. And if they don't show up to the meeting with all that stuff, you're never going to get them. So the pro is, if you front end load that file and you've got everything on hand, at that point you could say to the client, listen, let me try my best. I'm pretty sure we can beat this rate. You get that commitment back for your next appointment. Your file complete before they've even signed the commitment. So that's the success I've had with those files. Just a little nugget.
No, that's a good idea. I think that sometimes these are my past clients that I'm talking to, and I'm trying to make it a little bit too easy for them. If it's a purchase, I tell them straight up, I need all this. But on a switch transfer, it's like, oh, well, and I know that I'm creating, the problem is me. It's not it's not out there. So I'm this is good. Thank you for the coaching call in the middle of this interview, Rob. So another area that I find as a business owner and a mortgage broker is failure. I find that there's things that I've failed at, but looking back, there's always a lesson. Can you share something that you failed at, but when you look back on it, there was a lesson in it for you? Yeah,
so many failures. And I think you can't, one thing I've learned is, and it sucks to fail, it really does, because sometimes it is that deal that you need to close to maybe help feed your family. But you can't be afraid of failing. There's so many stories of failure, Scott. I've had everything from emails from clients' parents. I've got an email from a client's parent who had to co-sign a deal, that they tried to back out of co-signing at the very last minute. And what a beaut. I mean, the email was something along the lines of, the banks abide by financial laws. Why don't you? Like, just crazy stuff. I received that one, I believe it was on my birthday of last year. So that was a good way to spend my birthday. I mean, I didn't really fail in that instance, but there's tons of, what I'm trying to say is, there's not one specific failure I can really remember, but there's a lot of them coming for everybody, every day. I mean, people that are 20 years in the business or 1 year in the business, failure is you can't get around it, because it's just going to happen. You just got to fail quickly and learn from it and move on.
Yeah, no, that's great. You know, we were talking off air about, I was talking about how I do martial arts, and my coach always tells me you either win or you learn. And so whenever you go into a match, and it's the same thing, there's always a learning in those situations. Like what you said, the guy had emailed you and said, hey, you know what? I think you're doing something offside, just because they were not happy. And there's always something that we can improve, and we can't change their, what they're doing, but we can change a little bit of what we're doing. So I think it's good. And I love doing that to my business.
Yeah, and that's a great quote. You either win or you learn. That is really an amazing quote. You know, in the trades, one thing that we learned as an apprentice is you don't go on assumption, and you don't attempt anything without knowing that your lead hand or your group leader has okayed your decision. And it really strips you down, because I got into that trade actually older than most. I was 22 or 23 when I started that apprenticeship. You know, most people start an apprenticeship right out of high school. And you know how we are out of high school. You think you're on top of the world, especially as a guy. You think that you know everything, and you quickly get stripped right the hell down to realize that you know nothing, and you have to ask before you do everything. And that's really something I've taken into this industry, is that don't just assume, because you'll kill a file. If you just assume and you submit it to a lender, you're just going to kill the deal, and especially if it goes to an insurer. So make sure you ask. You know, of those failures, you got to learn, and you're only going to learn by asking, right? So.
Yeah, it's very humbling to have to go and and to ask before you hit the submit. But that's good. So another area I find that talking to successful brokers is they have systems and processes, and they're willing to tweak them. So I just want to ask you about a administrative process. So is there an administrative process that you had in your business that maybe wasn't working as well as you'd like, and then you made a tweak to it, and what kind of outcome did you get after you made an adjustment?
Yeah, one thing I learned from actually my broker, Nick, was just a really simple filing system. I was at a point in Guelph where I wasn't doing enough business that the files would be stacked to the ceiling, but I was doing enough that you could quickly get lost in the paperwork. And one thing I learned was just a really archaic but simple bring forward system with your files. So just a calendar system in your filing cabinet, and you touch the file once, and you'd bring it forward for the next day or the next day after that. So it would be off your desk. And I'm a very visual guy, and I'm not actually that high tech as although active on Twitter and Canadian Mortgage Hangout and all that good stuff. I'm not actually a huge techie guy when it comes to CRMs. That is changing because of the position that I'm in now at the head office. But I was finding files were falling through the cracks, and clients were getting left behind only because I left everything to my memory, and my memory is just like a sieve. So just a really simple bring forward system. It doesn't cost you anything to implement. Just a couple of files and just staying on top of those leads is just something that I really honed in on, and it worked well for me for the time being.
So the spring forward system, essentially, you keep paper files for all of your deals?
I did. What I did minimize down to was simply a one or two page sheet in a folder for the client. So all their contact info, the realtor info, the lawyer info, the underwriter, what lender it was at, loan to value, all that stuff. And then I would bring it forward. So if I came into the office this morning and I went to today's, I'm not going to give away what this is because it might get posted later. But let's say today's the first of the month. I come in and I open up the file and it says, call Scott, request pay stub, right? Mm-hmm. I call you, hey Scott, it's Rob. Hope you're doing well and the family's well. Just a reminder, we need that pay stub from you. I know it's Monday morning. I'll touch base with you on Friday if I haven't heard. Hang up the phone, make a note in your file, close the file, walk over and put it on the Friday. So if Friday's the 4th or the 5th, you put it in the 5th, you don't see that file again until then. Mm-hmm. If Scott calls, now this is archaic, and this is only if you're doing like 5 to 10 deals a month, right? Anything in excess of that, you definitely need some sort of more savvy system. But that's kind of a basic bring forward system.
Right. No, that's good. That's great advice for anybody that whether you can create that online or virtually as well through a software or through
for sure,
reminders. But that's great. It's good. I hadn't heard it called that before. I like it. So the other area too, I noticed that with successful mortgage brokers is they have a sales process and they're willing to adjust that sales process. So can you share an example maybe of something in your sales process that wasn't working as well as you'd like, and then you made an adjustment and what kind of outcome you got?
Yeah, I've always been really good at going out and networking and spurring activity. I've always been really lousy at the follow up. One thing that I've always struggled with was the follow up. Hence bringing that that bring forward filing system so that I could get in, touch those clients again, and then get back out and meet more people and new people. A follow-up process is actually, believe it or not, new leads. So, I can't remember who your last guest was that said 7 times. Below every problem, if you got to dig deeper, there's probably a solution there 6 or 7 questions in. That pertains to leads as well. And there's that old adage of like you're not gonna get any response or sale until at least the 7th or 8th time. And recently I've heard that extrapolated to 12 times to 13 times, just because of the time that we're living in with people getting bombarded with email and ads and all this kind of stuff. I think the best process that I've tweaked is actually the follow-up process with new leads. So whether you get an email or a tweet or something, a message from somebody, one thing that I've really honed in on was not giving up on that. Like literally bring that lead sheet forward every day or every 2 days for 12 touches until one of two things happens. The person like marks you as spam if you're emailing them, or literally you get them on the phone and they yell at you saying, "Listen, I don't want you to call me anymore." To which you can just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't spoken since you contacted me first, so that's fine. I'll stop contacting you." Or they say, "Yeah, you know what, Scott, I have forgotten about you. We got busy with our life. I know it's been a week or two. Yeah, let's arrange that appointment." I've kept up appearances with prospects for like 6 to 8 months that have left comments on a blog of mine or reached out and just disappeared, which have panned out into closed and paid deals. So don't give up. That's really a nugget there, is that
right.
Don't give up on that prospect until they either A, tell you no and hang up on you, or B, say, yeah, let's go.
That's great advice. And so I'm going to key on something you said. You said on Twitter. So have you ever got any business from Twitter?
Lots.
Really? So explain to me how, because I think I have 10 followers on Twitter and I never go on there. How do you, and I think one of them is my mom. So explain to me some, the most recent deal that you got from Twitter, what played out, just so that if someone else who has never really used Twitter, they can kind of get a sense of what you're doing with it.
Yeah. Okay. So for the record, I never started a Twitter account to close deals. I started the Twitter account to be more socially engaged with people online, but more so people in my community. I'm a big community guy. I'm a big believer in building up your presence in your community. I think the days of reaching across Canada and trying to acquire leads across Canada, that's not that focus, are gone. That online space is just consumed now. I have about 2,000 followers on Twitter, and a lot of those are organic. A lot of those are people I've actually conversed with and connected with. I mean, the last deal that I got from Twitter, closed and paid, actually closed about 3 weeks ago. And that was a relationship that probably started 2 or 3 years ago. Now, did I connect with that person knowing that was going to happen? No, not at all. That was a high beacon score, high credit, high equity, AAA deal too. And so, start organically, start local, and connect with people that way. I've connected with people for over a year, Scott, and they've literally met them face to face within my community a year or a year and a half after we've connected online, to which they say, "What do you do, by the way?" And a lot of people in our business would say that's horrendous. They should know what you do right away. Well, I totally disagree. I think building rapport and trust as a person is first and foremost your biggest step these days, especially online, because people have great bullshit detectors. And the minute that you pounce on there and say, it's just like if you go to a networking event, you meet somebody new and you shove your card down their throat and say, hey, if you ever need help with your mortgage, let me know. Like, that's just sleazy. You know, they're expecting you to sell them a Pinto as well. You know, I once said I was nominated and awarded the top 40 under 40 in Guelph before I left the city. And one of the things I said in the article that they wrote about me was, doing the right thing is always the right thing to do. And don't sell, just be a person, you know, give out your heart, not your card is what I like to say.
That's
give
good.
Out your heart, not your card.
And so because the whole Twitter thing, I agree with you. Twitter is just really another way to connect with people, and you can abuse it and annoy people with it just like you can in on any medium or even in face to face. So this particular one that you said you'd connected with a year ago. So like how do you build a relationship on Twitter? Because I'm pretty slow with this stuff and I don't really. So how do you build a relationship without being annoying? Can you?
Yeah, absolutely. The number one thing is to search people that are in your area. You can do that with a hashtag. So the #, if you're in Barrie, where I am, or I was in Guelph, you know, a good way is to just use the hashtag and the word Barrie or Guelph or Vancouver or North York or wherever you are, Edmonton. The Kilted Broker, my good friend Jackson Middleton, he was in Regina, he's now in Edmonton. He had a massive following in Regina for the same reason. You just follow people that are in your city. You'll quickly know if they're using Twitter as a personal chat between their friends or if they're actually conversing with people in the community as well. And you just start to reply to people. You know, people will put out there, I'm eating the most scrumptious sandwich at XYZ Deli. You know, reply to that and say, really, where is that? I'm starving. You know, it's a conversation. Twitter's a conversation. And that's really how you start to engage with people. And from there, you just build the trust, and people can quickly see that you are who you are, and then that's really how business starts to come from that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll leave that to the side now, but I definitely, for me, it's an avenue and something I've never even explored, but I think you've some good advice there. Just be friendly, just like you would be in any social situation, and not, you know, vomit your business all over them. Yeah. So another thing I've been hearing a lot about lately is the need to diversify your income. And so in my mind, there's two camps that I've seen. One camp says, yes, you need to diversify, you need to get more wallet share. Another camp says, no, you need to just focus on being a better broker. I want to know sort of where you fall on that. And if you are diversifying, what area are you focusing on?
So I'm not diversifying. I fundamentally believe that you can only be good at one thing and one thing alone. And I understand income diversification, but I do believe that you are really put on this earth to do one thing really well. And of the many super brokers I've had the honor of sitting down with and chatting with one-on-one or on the phone, they're just really good at inking deals, man. Like, there is no other way I can put that. They're just really, really good at being mortgage brokers. And a lot of people will throw in the MPP or maybe sell the odd mutual fund or GIC or whatever. Yeah, okay. But I think that if you want to diversify your income or get more income, just do more of what you're doing. So, I mean, that's the level of where my head is at right now. Now, that could change in 5 or 10 years, maybe. I just don't know that you could be really good at everything. I think you just need to be really good at one thing. And if that's being a business owner, i.e., you're the mortgage broker, principal broker, and your income is now having agents under you and maybe a secondary business like in the real estate, then maybe that's a good way of diversifying, obviously. But at the beginning, I think any agent that's new to this business, just be really good at mortgages when you get into it, and just crush that for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's enough of a challenge. And so you'd mentioned you have some young family. So how do you balance running your mortgage practice and your family?
I've been really poor of doing that in the last couple of years, i.e. having my phone on at night, taking applications on a Sunday night at 6 p.m. I know Dustin Woodhouse you had on, and I respect Dustin very much so, and I've had the pleasure of sitting down one-on-one with Dustin as well. He answers his phone on the weekend, at nights and all that. Part of me wants to say he's a he's a fool for doing so, but you know what? The proof's in the pudding. He's crushing the business and he's making a good living doing it. I've just found that those applications that I tend to take on the weekend or after hours, they're dog crap deals. They never go anywhere. For me, I'm not saying this is everybody, obviously, but I just really try to hone in lately of doing really well at the office, and then on the weekend just keeping the phone off and being involved with my family, my kids too. I've got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. I love them so much. And I just try to think back when I was that age with my parents. My parents were working all the time, and I just don't want those memories for my kids to have those memories too. So I try to just turn off the phone at night, and if they're still awake when I get home. But the weekend for sure, focus on spending good quality family time.
Right. It'd be interesting actually if you did track sort of your closing ratio on the day that you got the lead, and if there was any correlation between sort of these weekend intros versus the weekday. And I mean, the other thing too is you're just not, like for me anyway, I'm not as mentally in that, if somebody called me on a weekend, I'm not as mentally there as I am if I'm sitting behind my desk and I have everything. Totally. And they're not getting the best of me either. So they may be getting my attention, but certainly not what they would get if it was in the middle of my workday and I'm like dialed in and I'm like, okay, I'm rocking, right?
Totally. If you called up, if you called up Warren Buffett because you wanted him to invest your $1 billion portfolio that you have, do you think Warren Buffett's going to call you back at 9 p.m. on a Saturday night? No. His assistant's going to call you on Monday morning and say, hey, Scott, we got your message. Warren's available on Thursday at 2 p.m. till 2:15 p.m., or you can speak to him Tuesday morning while he's brushing his teeth. Like, what do you want? Like, those are the two available times. I think we're too quick to trip over I got to please my client now, especially on the weekend. Now, if it's a web lead and you're sitting at your desk, I'm pretty sure those web gurus like the Ron Butlers and the Dan Eisners, they're going to tell you, if you don't call that lead back within 15 minutes, your closing ratio starts to plummet, right? Mm-hmm. But on a weekend, I don't know, man. I'm not sold on it. Unless it's a VIP client of yours that holds a big portfolio and you've done a lot of deals with them, then that's different. But if it's a new lead, Monday morning can wait,
Yeah, I have found that the people who usually are like in a stress case, like last minute, they need all kinds of help. They're usually, everything's a catastrophe in their life. They don't have the documents, and it's not like they're super organized, right? They're like, oh, I wrote an offer and I've got 3 days and I don't even have any financing. Like, what was I thinking? And you're like, your whole life is a catastrophe. I don't need your catastrophe in my life. So
yeah, and now it echoes through your business life and your personal life because you're stressing, and it's just bad. Bad all around.
They give you their mess, right?
Yep.
And you anyway. So that's great. So now we'll move to the rapid fire questions. You can answer these with a little shorter answers if you like. So what's the number one thing holding back most mortgage brokers from being successful?
First and foremost is education. Education on the products, the lenders, the business in general. We get into this business thinking we're selling rate. And I know guys like Ron Butler will cringe when I start to say this, but really at the beginning of your career, you can't. This business is not about a rate and a mortgage. It's about building your business. It's not only just helping the clients, like forget about all the goodwill stuff and the good-hearted stuff, making sure the clients get the right product, blah, 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 blah. This is a business. You need to write a business plan. You need to focus on your business plan. You need to focus on education and focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses. One of my strengths is just people. I can get into a room of 300 people and talk to 100 of them, and that's my strength. I know what my weaknesses are. I stay away from those. I let somebody else take care of those.
Mm-hmm. And so one thing or habit, I think you've answered it, has made you successful?
Definitely my personality. And I'm not trying to pump up my own tires here, but like I said, I get that from both my parents, my mom and my dad. Although they work their asses off, my mom is very social in the respects that if she's in an elevator with somebody, she'll talk to them. Mm-hmm. Even if it's only 3 floors, she'll say to them, hey, the weather's beautiful, isn't it? My name's Martha. That's me. That's me to a T. I will talk to anybody, homeless, millionaire, everybody's on the same page with me. We're all human, and my personality really has helped me.
That's awesome. And do you have an internet resource or software program you use to make your business more successful?
Absolutely. It's called Google Drive. If you don't have a Google Drive account to store docs in, to send to clients, even blank forms, Google Drive for just deal flow, spreadsheets, anything. I mean, you can access it from anywhere with a Google account. If you're at a hotel at a conference and your laptop falls off the back of the bus and you're screwed, you can go down to the business center, log into Google Drive. There's all your stuff. Google Drive.
Google Drive. That's an awesome one. And if you could recommend one book for our listeners, what would it be?
The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I find that it's a bit misleading in the title because, no, you can't work only 4 hours a week, but the good nuggets in that book are how to focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses, outsource your weaknesses to assistants or virtual assistants, but also you're focusing on what you want out of life and just going after it and cutting loose all the BS in your life.
So where do you think our industry's headed? Where's the opportunity?
I strongly think we're coming full circle in this business. I think AAA business is going to dry up drastically. The banks are going to fight for that AAA business as much as they can. So I think the alternative side is going to just boom. B business, especially business for self-employed clients, private funding, second mortgages. I think that stuff's going to be more prevalent in the years to come. Hence why I've switched to head office now and become part of the alternative lending side of the business.
Catch the big wave that's coming.
Yeah. I really think it is going to come.
And so, what is one of my favorite questions? It's the DeLorean Questions. Remember the movie Back to the Future?
I do, absolutely.
And so, in the movie, there's the DeLorean car that you could travel the time. So, if I could set that to the first day you were a mortgage broker, I think you said you've been a broker for 4 years. So, you go back to your first day, and you get to tell yourself 3 things, give yourself 3 pieces of advice, so you'd have a better, bigger business today. What 3 things would you tell yourself?
I would show up with Doc. And he would yell, "Great, Scott!" And then I jump out of the car and I tell myself not to focus on the website, not to focus on the color-coordinated, binder that you're putting together. Stop waiting for the rate sheet every morning from your lenders. I would tell myself to get my ass out of the office, go meet as many people in a day as possible in your community, network. The good old belly-to-belly network. Go to industry events, every industry event you can, every CMHC presentation, go to it, learn the business, meet 3 new people a day, have a breakfast or a coffee in the morning, 1 for lunch and 1 in the afternoon, 3 people a day, every day, and really come up with a business plan. You're not going to know how to write it at the beginning, but at least getting your ideas on paper in front of you and sticking to your business plan every day will really matter. One thing from the 4-Hour Workweek is Tim Ferriss's Dreamline. He doesn't have it up online anymore, but I do have a copy of it that I've scanned, a blank copy. But a Dreamline is really a business plan focused on income and what kind of income you're looking after, and chunk that down to how many contacts you got to make a day. It really is get the hell out of your office. And you should be in your office at the beginning for maybe an hour or 2 every day, doing apps, but getting out and meeting people and getting your face in the community for sure. That's
awesome. So get out of the office was the first thing. Second thing is meet 3 new people a day and then do you call it a dream line?
Yeah.
Create a dream line. So maybe if you send that to me, I'll throw that up there and so that other people can grab it if they want to use it.
For sure, will do.
Okay, awesome. Well, Rob, I really appreciate this interview and your time. I think... I hope you rock the rest of your year. And so where can people find you online?
Oh, geez. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @TheRobCampbell, TheRobCamp, P as in Peter, B as in Bob, ELL. We're on CanadianMortgageHangout.tv every Thursday live. Or you can email me, rcampbell@mortgagewellness.ca. I'll be more than happy to reach out to anybody that contacts me and to chat, as always.
Awesome. Rob, well, I hope you crush the rest of your year and they'll be the bee business king within the next, year to 2.
I hope so.
The only podcast for brokers by brokers. I Love Mortgage Brokering will inspire you to up your mortgage business. Join your host, Scott Peckford.
Hey, Broker Nation, Scott Peckford here. Have you joined our VIP club for mortgage brokers yet? If not, you're missing out. We share exclusive content not available on the web or the show. We share scripts, step-by-step guides, and other insider tips to help you save time and make you more money. I can't tell you how many times after I turn off the recorder, a guest starts sharing some awesome advice or a script or a tip, and I take the best of this and share it with my VIPs. If you want to get on the list, visit ilovemortgagebrokering.com/VIP. That's ilovemortgagebrokering.com/VIP. Oh, and one other thing. Since this is exclusively for mortgage brokers, there is a skill testing question. Good luck, and I hope you continue to rock your mortgage biz.